Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios. It's Football at 4.
And Football at 4 on this Happy Hour Friday. It's brought to you by Prop Swap, America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bet, take your profit. Find out how. PropSwap.com. Download the Prop Swap app today. Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Get it wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, the new edition is out at the Combine. Adam Caplan, Jeff Mosher, we spoke to a bunch this week. He was there in Indianapolis. Adam as well. We got plenty to dive into. We had Howie Roseman speak earlier this week. We also had Nick Sirianni speak earlier this week. So we got a lot to dive into now with Adam Caplan from InsideTheBirds.com. What's going on, Adam?
Michael, good to be with you here from Indianapolis. I'm here for a couple more days. It's been a fun week, no question about it. Weather's been interesting, to say the least. We have a 70-something degree weather coming tomorrow here.
Nice.
Before I get out of here. So it's certainly been fun and lots of Eagle stuff going on here.
Yeah, I we'll get to a lot of the stuff that happened this week. I guess Malik Willis was kind of the guy yesterday. He was all over my Twitter feed.
Yeah, Desmond Ridder and Kenny Pickett all threw well. You got to be careful. Malik Willis has a great arm. Nobody doubted that. We knew that coming in. If he never threw another football, we already know how he threw it. The question is for him, accuracy. He's very raw, needs a lot of work. Anyone who drafts him knows he's most likely not going to play the first year. He's a project, but he's really fun to watch. I was at the Senior Bowl watching him. Desmond Ridder's a guy that I like a lot who had a good day yesterday throwing it, and so did Kenny Pickett. And by the way, the workouts started on Thursday, and they conclude Monday afternoon.
All right. Well, we saw on Wednesday both Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni reiterated that Jalen Hurts is the guy. So are we now 100% taking them at their word, especially after Pete Carroll says, not interested in trading Russell Wilson. It seems that finding a veteran quarterback, that path might be a little tougher.
Well, Mike, I'd actually might want to make a small correction on what you said. Pete Carroll said. He said they have no intention of trading him. That doesn't mean that they won't trade him. In fact, that left the door open them for take calls and listen. No, I wouldn't. I'd put a small percentage that they trade him, but I wouldn't rule that out. That took me back. I was standing about 5 feet in front of him on Wednesday. I think it was Wednesday, and it had to be Wednesday. And then John Snyder, the GM, spoke later that day and said they're not shopping him. He made that pretty clear. But this is not one where it's saying, like last year, once they got through the angst and the issues they had with Wilson, or Wilson, quite frankly, had with them, it was less about them. It was more about what Wilson had. It was pretty quiet. They get along. But I could just tell you, being there and just hearing Pete Carroll talk, I mean, yeah, I would agree that they don't want to trade him, but I would say there's a small percentage that something happens. So I wouldn't completely rule that out.
He did say, I guess, on TV that he's not interested in playing on the East Coast.
Wilson. Who, Wilson?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, number one, he's got a no trade clause, and I never thought it was if you graded like 5 teams that are probable, I would have put the Eagles at the bottom because Russell Wilson wants to win another Super Bowl. The Eagles are a ways away from winning one, though they got in the playoffs, but. I think if you were being honest here, and particularly the people that Moshe and I talked to this week who evaluated the Eagles roster, they thought the staff did a great job. They just didn't think the roster was very good. They've got a lot of room for improvement.
We're going to talk a little bit about it. But to get there, Howie Roseman lost a couple compadres to help put this thing together, and he's not too happy about it.
Yeah, 2 things. Just before we get there, I would definitely say, to finish your question on Hurts, yes. Clearly, he's the guy. What we could get into that to another time. Why I thought that for the case is for 3 months, but let's get back to the issue with Howie Roseman and it's really funny. I think sometimes he does something on purpose. So like with the Eagles website before he came to the Combine, Roseman made it clear he wasn't happy with the 2 guys leaving. I guess he's friendly with 2 guys who were sort of lieutenants, as they say, like Andy Weidel. Who became assistant GMs now. Brandon Brown in the same division with the Giants and Ian Cunningham in the same conference with the Bears. And that makes them have a little bit more work to do.
And he could lose a third guy.
When you say lose a third guy, who
well, Weidel interviewed with Pittsburgh.
Andy Weidel, yeah. I mean, he's one of 10 people. Yeah, I mean, there's a 10% chance. Yes. Now, what Weidel, has an advantage of he's from Pittsburgh and his first ever job was with the Steelers. So I would up that 1 of 10 to maybe he's got a little bit better chance than most there. But they're not going to do that till after the draft. So the key is here, let's stay with the draft and free agency process through the end of April. This does put a little bit more pressure because being here, Roseman does not run every free agent meeting. He doesn't meet with every free agent or potential for, these, they've got their own guys, 13 guys. And then of course the so-called tampering meetings, the free agent process. Every team does it. And he doesn't have to handle these. They hand them off. It gives them a little bit more stress in terms of having to do work. So it's not, they'll get all the work done. It just gives him more work. So I was surprised. Actually, I shouldn't be surprised. It just is funny how he decided to do it with the team website with Dave Spadaro, and he was a little bit more emphatic. Again, Moshe and I were there to see this in front of us. And I was just like, okay, this is clearly he did this on purpose. He kind of knew he was going to get the question, and he put it out there. In fact, this is kind of like to him a memo. The way I view it, my interpretation is, and he said, we have to do something about this. He's basically saying to the league, we can't be losing good people before the draft process is over.
And I talked to Moshe earlier in the week, and he had mentioned that Weidl's contract, the way that GMs and front office guys' contracts work, they typically expire right after the draft, which is an odd time, So, it's the guy in Pittsburgh is leaving right after the draft, which means they need a replacement right there, and that's when some of these guys' contracts expire so they can kind of move freely in this process here. It makes it a really odd time because you're working with one organization trying to help them with your foot possibly at the door to replace Kevin Colbert.
Yeah, it's really not good. By the way, the Eagles cannot block anyone to become a GM. The rules changed the last couple of years. So if Weidl gets the job, if they want to hire him, the Eagles can't block him. So,
right.
But it won't be until after the draft. That's very clear. Steelers have made that clear. Colbert's not leaving until after the draft. But Weidl is a guy that's highly qualified. And quite frankly, I'm shocked that he didn't get any other interviews other than Steelers.
Howie Roseman did admit one thing, and that his pass rush is an issue. They have 3 picks, and I think the least shocking thing of the draft would be if they drafted a edge rusher, right?
Yeah, with one of those 3 picks, and odds are against them keeping all 3, but if they do, they're going to draft one. If they only have 2 picks, as Moshe asked me on a show earlier this week, I believe it'll be a corner and a quarter, not a safety, a cornerback and Deion. No, safety ain't going to happen. That would be the shocker. That was going to be the shocker if they drafted a safety. And first of all, Moshe would probably keel over if they did because he's been one of them to do that. But it won't be a safety in round 1.
The other thing is, I thought it was interesting that Roseman, he brought up that he feels better. He feels like he knows his coaches a little bit better. And one of the questions I thought was an interesting one was, well, listen, you're a defensive coordinator interviewed for jobs. Do you build a defense for this guy with the thought that he might be gone and he might have to do it again? But he's saying, no, I got a better feel for my coaches now and what they look. It's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point by him. And it's so important for fans to understand that, yes, Jonathan Gannon did not do a very good job in year 1. There's no defending it. He didn't. But the personnel staff will hopefully get him better players on defense. You mentioned defensive end. They need a better depth there. They have to get younger there opposite Josh Sweat. There's no question about that. Upgrading a linebacker, we'll have to see about that. Though we're going to drop some nuggets on our Monday morning show. We have a Combine notebook for our listeners for our podcast, which, by the way, you could download on any platform. You could watch it on YouTube, whatever you want to do. And we're going to have some notes about what we think they might do in free agency on the draft. And the key here is for Roseman and Weidl to help these coaches get them more talent at wide receiver, get them D-line help, get them safeties, Mike. They have to do something. They'll do something in free agency, I'm sure, at safety. They don't have a choice, but also draft one. And also outside corner. We've talked about this on your show on Friday at 4 or Football at 4 for several weeks. They've got to get better depth at outside corner. So they've got a lot of work to do, and they got to help the coaches. And you do that by understanding what they need.
Well, and one of the things Moshe and I debated about yesterday is you have so many holes. Does it behoove you to trade your picks or use the 3 picks because you're not a normal playoff team here. You do have the holes that 3 players could fix. So he made some interesting points, but I'd like to hear where you kind of stand on. Do you think they should just say, you know what? make the 3 picks. You have too many holes. Get 3 new players in here.
Well, here's we made this point, I think, on one of our recent shows. It's really important to understand this. Bill Polian told us last year when he did one of our interviews that there typically are only 12 to 15 first-round picks that are true first-round grades. Yes, 32 picks have to be made, but they're only really, truly 12 to 15 guys who should be drafted in the first round. Well, the Eagles have, 15, 16, and 19? So at 19, you can't say for sure they're going to trade it, but odds are that they're going to try to trade out of that pick and try to trade down and get more picks. That's just the reality of it. Now, you just don't you don't make a pick just because you have it. It's all about the value. Where's your grade? When the Eagles have struggled under Howie Roseman, Mike, they would take players like Marcus Smith, who had a late second-round grade for most teams that I talked to in that 14 draft. I didn't even know. When I was at ESPN, I reported that the Eagles were very strong on him. I remember going to the NFL Insider Show and saying that. I didn't know that he was going to go in the first round, to tell the truth. I was surprised by that. He was a top 60 pick-ish, top 50. You don't want to get into that situation. I could also tell you with that Marcus Smith pick, they tried to trade out. Similarly, when they tried to trade out the pick that wound up being J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, just didn't work out. But you don't want to force the board. That's the worst thing you can do.
All right, Adam Caplan, football at 4. Let's look at some free agent notes, some combine stuff. Jason Kelsey, they sent him a keg. Is that going to be enough?
Yeah. What our understanding is, and Jeff and I have similar information, that he's probably leaning towards coming back, but it's not done yet. He could change his mind. He's healthy. I'm told he had this knee issue, this recurring issue for a couple of years. It would flare up. I don't know what it is, tendonitis, who knows, Zach, what it is, but it would flare up and it'd go away. He ended the season healthy. I'll be honest with you, it's been the first time in many years where he just felt really good. Comparatively, he had the dislocated elbow the year before that. One year he broke his foot, which is really under-discussed. He toughed it out, or broken toe or something like that. It was definitely a foot or toe issue. But he ended the season healthy. So odds are that he's coming back, and as we first reported last spring, he's got a $30 million roster bonus due on June 3rd. If he wants to come back, they have to redo his deal. There's no debate on that. The challenge for them will be to make him the highest paid center, not only in NFL history, the highest paid center. He deserves it. He was an All-Pro. I know he's older, but that to me will be a debate for the front office and his agency.
Something to keep an eye on. Another thing, we talk about the glamour spots on offense and defense they need help on, but man, they haven't had a punt returner here for a while, it seems like, Adam Caplan. Is that something that they might be shopping for?
Yeah, it's interesting. We'll release names on our Monday show, but what Moshe and I have heard is that they're definitely shopping for punt kickoff returners. There's no question. It has not worked with Jalen Reagor. That was one of the roles he was supposed to have, and obviously he has not done a good job, particularly this past season. So it's something we're hearing that they're eyeing. So yeah, you're right, Mike. This is something that's been under discussed, which has been atrocious. Like they got the kicker back on order. Jake Elliott had a great year.
Yep.
Punter regressed, and now the return game is bad. So the special teams coaches, they have 3 of them. They've got to really get this thing up to speed.
Hey, Moshe and I discussed yesterday, the offensive line is going to be interesting because what's going to happen with Sayamala? Where are they going to play him if Kelsey comes back? You bring back a guy like Herbig. What's his role? I think that offensive line, you've got a very good starting 5, and you have a little bit of depth, but there's going to be a couple interesting decisions.
Yeah, Nate Herbig, my understanding is I believe they want him back. But what I don't know is if they're going to tender him. He's a restricted free agent. If they do, they would do the low tender, which is just for over $2.4 million, which to me is very reasonable for one of the better backup interior linemen in the NFL. He could start for you if you need him to. Herbig's been a great story. He finally got into better shape last year. He was grossly overweight 2 years ago, and he really took his weight seriously. So, yeah, and obviously Kelsey coming back, if he does, then Herbig definitely is a backup. And you know what? Another note, though, they really like this Jack Anderson, who they sign off the Bills practice squad, he played one game, I think, and played pretty well. So, yeah, there'd be a little bit later.
They got Driscoll, too.
Yeah, Driscoll, yes. So they got Driscoll coming back, who's a top backup right tackle and guard, who could start if you need him to. And then, although they don't really see Driscoll as a center, they do believe, though, Anderson and Herbig could be backup centers. So if they decide against bringing back Herbig, Jack Anderson could compete for that backup center guard job.
Adam Caplan, football at 4. Miles Sanders, his name came up about contract extension. Roseman said, I don't want to talk about it, but is Kenny Gainwell the main backup to him this year?
That's my sense from being out here, is that Gainwell, barring something unforeseen, will be the number 2 running back. I don't know what happened to his role in the second half of the season. I haven't gotten clarity what happened. He was terrific the first half, and then I don't want to say he disappeared. He just didn't have that role. They kept rotating. I know Jordan Howard's a factor. He did well before he got hurt. Boston Scott to me, Mike, it's just going to be hard to bring him back because, again, the low tenor is $2.4 million. I suggested on recent shows you could severely cut his pay and say, hey, we'll bring it back at like $900,000 to $1 million. We'll fully guarantee it. But his role is he's too better for, you know what, Mike, he's better than the role that they have him for. It's way too inconsistent. And from what we're hearing, they would like Gainwell to just take that number 2 role.
Yeah.
So I would say in all probability he'll be the number 2 back.
Yeah, and he's one of those guys that showed some stuff last year. Definitely has the speed, can catch the ball in the backfield. He's fun, a good piece. All right. What's the feeling? You're out there talking to everybody at the combine around the NFL on the quarterback situation. This is going to be a merry-go-round, and it seems like there's so many guys out there, and I think the name that's kind of emerging is Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah, so, okay, first of all, this is what I want to say. It's a shame on me for not discussing it with Hurts. Just to complete, this plays into these notes here. So the reason why, Mike, I'm pretty certain of this now. I felt this was the case when they surprised us, when Sirianni and Roseman went on the record and said he's their guy after the season was over, and they reaffirmed it 2 days ago. It's mainly because they do like him, but the big reason is because I don't believe they love these quarterbacks in this draft, number 1. Number 2, Russell Wilson is going to take a lot of compensation. It could take 3 first-round picks. I don't get the feeling that they want to do that. Deshaun Watson's got legal issues. Jimmy Garoppolo, I'm told they're not interested in. So where are you going here? And they like Gardner Minshew, by the way, a lot as their backup. So it's not a good time to need a quarterback. And you mentioned Mitch Trubisky. Trubisky is, I'm told, really a bunch of people here feel like he'll be on the radar of a bunch of teams. He won't go in and start anywhere. He'll be able to compete for a starting job potentially, whether it's the Giants, Washington, Pittsburgh, something like that. But the fact of the matter is, Mitch Trubisky is the best free agent quarterback on the market right now.
Yeah, it's interesting because he was in Buffalo, and of course the whole Buffalo regime is now in New York. If they would consider bringing him in to kind of push with Daniel Jones. Does Washington get involved? Washington needs a quarterback bad. So Trubisky, could he end up in the NFC East? That could be something to keep an eye on. If he's the best option on the free agent market, well, it's a possibility that Washington gets involved. They need a quarterback in the worst way, right?
Badly. Yeah. And again, that's why Hurts is going to be the quarterback this season. Think about it. I know Russell Wilson, fans would love to have him, but you're going to give up these 3 first-round picks, and you have so many holes. To me, it's just you need blue chip players. They need an answer. Look, and by the way, this is Hurts' 3rd year of his 4-year deal. Mm-hmm. If he doesn't play well this season, he did improve last season. But if he doesn't play this season, he won't be the quarterback the next season. So, yeah, we need to be careful with that one.
All right, the combine continues. By the way, local kid Bo Melton was a 4.3 40, man. I mean, I think it seems like they were handing out 4.3s down there, but he was one of
was
the
that official? Was that the official time?
4.34 at the time. It was the 4th fastest. I don't know if people have surpassed. I don't think so. I don't think anybody's. So 4.34.
Yeah, we saw him at the Senior Bowl. His dad Gary was in the NFL for a little bit. Yeah, I'd like to. I haven't got the official times yet. Because he's not what you would it's interesting. He's not really a speed guy per se, but if that 4.34 is legitimate, if that's actually real time, I think teams will have to take a look at that because he's not known as an explosive guy. He's just got great versatility. He's pretty tough, run after the catch guy. Probably going to be a slot receiver the next level. But that's pretty interesting if that holds up.
Sure is. He's a guy that, I caught a bunch of his games at Cedar Creek. Watching him in high school, he was amazing. He was a running back. They handed him the ball a lot, so he has jet sweep in his background. And at Rutgers, I just don't think he had the quarterback play. But I heard he had a good week at the Senior Bowl, too. So a guy to kind of keep an eye on locally here. Adam Caplan, of course, InsideTheBirds.com, the Inside the Birds podcast, all off season long. The Intel Show with Greg Cosell. Trey Thomas has his show on the Inside the Birds platform, and all the stuff from Andrew covering the draft. Check them all out. And, of course, Football at 4. Every day, 4 o'clock, we talk football right here on the Sports Bash. Have a great weekend, Adam.
You too, my friend. See you.
All right, there he goes. Adam Caplan, InsideTheBirds.com. This is Football at 4.